Well, welcome to the Randy Cross podcast. Appreciate you joining us, joining me. We've got a pretty good little show. It's mainly going to be interview again, and I'm going to be joined by Brian Jones of CBS, my colleague on Inside College Football, the SEC on CBS, and he of quite a few different opinions when it comes to college football. We'll have a little bit of sports, a little bit of feel good, a little bit of wambulance, and then we'll get you out of here. So let's start with Brian Jones. And as promised, we're joined right now by Brian Jones, my colleague from CBS, and you see him on the SEC on CBS, as well as Inside College Football on Tuesday nights. BJ, welcome.
Thanks, RC, man. Happy to finally have made the big time in your podcast.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Hey, here in the middle of the week, most everybody's going to start playing this week. You know, last week, a couple of games. Pretty exciting finishes, pretty sloppy football. But the big story this week so far involves Alabama, and specifically the Alabama defense. Can you talk a little bit about those injuries on the inside, those linebackers?
Wow. Yeah, just amazing. Dylan Moses is a kid that has shined since he stepped on campus, even when he was primarily a special teams player a couple of years ago, and came into his own last year. He's a guy that they can move around at the linebacker position, can play outside, can play inside as he did a year ago. And I got a chance to interview him back in July at the SEC Media Days, and what a good kid, a guy with a great head on his shoulder, and a hard-nosed football player. So to see him go down after you meet these young men, that really stings, because he's such a stud. But Alabama's seen this movie before. You recall a couple of years ago, they lost, seemed like every linebacker they had some meaningful playing time, and yet they were still able to get to the national title game and win it. So they know how to erase and replace as good as anyone, if not better than everyone. I would put Clemson in that number now, and they're really going to be tested on the defensive side of the ball with all the attrition they've had there due to graduation and the NFL draft. So, the next man up. So you're looking at probably some true freshmen who are going to have to fill some holes and get coached up pretty well. And if there's anyone that can develop guys, it's Nick Saban and his crew, and they throw a lot at you. It's amazing to me that they have the ability to coach these guys up and have so much multiplicity in their defensive schemes, considering the limitations on time at the collegiate level. Now, if you're a pro, you're in there, as you know, eight hours a day on their clock, and then some extra hours just on your time. So the fact that they are their schemes are so complex, and that lets you know that's a testament to their ability to really teach. And just talking to other coaches at the collegiate level, man, they just marvel at the fact that they can do so many things scheme wise, and they can put all that stuff in a small amount of time, and it sinks in and resonates with their players. So before we get to feeling sorry for Alabama, just know that they'll have someone they can plug in who had 4 or 5 stars by his name when he stepped on campus. But you have to feel really bad for a guy who probably could have had another great year where he leads the team in tackles. Probably could have put his name in the draft and possibly go pretty high, because Dylan Moses is one of those guys that can fly around the field. He can do it all.
Do we tend to overreact, those of us that kind of get paid to talk about the game, when something like this happens, and invariably sort of forget about the plug-and-play nature at times of some of these top programs? Because it's not like they're just going to find Slappy in the locker room and go, hey, you're now our starting linebacker. That kid's probably at least a 4-star, if not a 5-star high school All-American.
Yeah, I mean, they already had, we were hearing that there was a true freshman that was going to be getting a lot of run after the preseason camp. We'll see what he does once he gets to this level. And you can have all those stars behind your name, but we've seen some of them not really pan out when they've gone on to the big time, especially a program like Alabama. So, I played early. I'm not sure, Randy, back in your day, freshmen couldn't play, I don't believe.
Well, actually, my freshman year was the first year that freshmen could play.
Yeah. And so the difficult thing for me was I'd all my life, Pop Warner, all the way up till I got to UCLA. And I played in a 4-3, get out there, and they got that 50 defense, so I had to learn that stuff. And so I'm trying to play fast, but not be in a hurry and not screw up the defense. So I was just leaning on athletic ability, and I think you'll get some of that. They're going to make some mistakes. You expect that no matter what position you play. You get out there as a true freshman, you're going to make some mistakes. But that being said, as far as your question, yeah, we feel for the player, man, because we've been there. We've been nicked, and we're walking around now with all those remnants of the injuries that we sustained. So back in the day, and unfortunately, we also have dealt with injuries that may end your season early for you. So we feel for those players, and a team like Alabama, as I stated earlier, you pick your chin up really quick because there's another cat in there with just as much talent. The only thing missing is the experience, and he's going to get it now.
Hey, love to get your thoughts on the transfer portal and how things have gone, and from your point of view, if you could change one thing about the process, what would it be?
I don't like I'll just say it this way. I'm in agreement with what Jim Harbaugh proposed. He proposed first time you transfer,
one time,
you can go wherever you want. No penalties, no nothing, no sitting out. The second time you attempt to transfer, you have to go back to the old rules where you sit out. Coaches are free to move about the country. I think the players should be too, and so be it, or albeit it looks like free agency and too much like the NFL. Well, what doesn't look like the NFL in today's game? The money definitely does. That's why you got coaches making $6, $7, $8 million a year. So I don't want to hear about this whole amateurish nonsense, because there's nothing amateur about those contracts that these coaches are signing their names to. So I like the fact that they've gone back now, though, and they have put some checks and balances on these waivers where guys were just pretty automatically being able to play immediately, with these flimsy rationales for why they transferred.
Right.
Now, you have to now go back and document and have some substantial evidence as to what went on that would lead us to allowing you to play right now. Now, I want them to do away with that rule,
right?
But the fact that they did go and say, wait a minute, some of this stuff doesn't add up, which I understand.
Well, just like a lot of things in life, right now it sort of depends on if you have a good attorney.
Right, exactly. And that's how it usually is. If you can afford a good one, you might be all right and get through unscathed. So the fact that I'm not a fan of the system as it sits now, where you have to sit out, but that you just can't go in there and say I'm transferring because of this and make stuff up. So they go and hire the guy who was advocating on behalf of all these players. He's now working for the NCAA. It's like Leonardo DiCaprio, catch me if you can.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't beat him, or they finally caught him, and then they hired him to work for them. So that's what's going on now with the NCAA. But I would like for these kids to be able to move around freely. And as a fan, it hurts. You don't want to see them go, but they only have one football life to live. And why would we begrudge them? And I don't like the fact that you give up because there's some competition in your face, because life's not going to be fair when you get out here in this real world, whether it's at the next level where you have dreamt of playing all your life, or it's not. It's some corporate job or anything else that has to do with real life. You're going to face some adversity. And there are going to be some times where you're not picked and someone gets picked over you. What do you do then? Do you curl up in a fetal position, or you continue to fight? And you want to see that, but sometimes it is best for them to move on. I get that, but at least have a good reason for doing it.
Now, this week, our Inside College Football started playing Tuesday night. As always, it's on, usually 9 to 11. This week it was from 7 to 9, and it'll be running all week on CBS Sports Network. During that show, we all sort of put up our Final Four, our playoff four. Can you preview yours? I found it very interesting. That's why I want to share.
Well, I could tell in your voice. I don't know if we would qualify that as an inflection, but there was a change in tone, an octave, if you will, when you were posing that question. I have no problem going out on that limb. I just want to make sure you're not behind me trying to saw it off. But I've got Georgia, I have Clemson, and I think most people would have those two. And I also have Oregon and Pac-12. I think a lot of people are leaning toward Oregon as well, Oregon or Utah. But I'm back on the Michigan State train, and that's the one that's catching a lot of, let's say, drawing a lot of eyebrows to raise. I liked Michigan State a year ago because of their defense, and that defense played up to snuff. They were the number one rush defense a year ago. 8 return on that side of the ball. 7 are seniors. Watch Joe Bacci, the linebacker. He's the leading tackler. And my man, Willikis, Kenny Willikis. Here's a guy who was a walk-on there at Michigan State. Led the team in sacks, 8.5 sacks, and led the Big Ten in tackles for loss with 20.5. So I like what they have coming back there. They were decimated on offense. Go back and research it. I mean, offensive line combinations, they just went through so many. I don't know of any other team that had as many injuries as them other than TCU. The quarterback, Brian Lewerke, this guy is very athletic, probably the most athletic they've had there at Michigan State in a long, long time. But he was banged up last year, shoulder issues. And what else I like, other than the fact that they have these guys coming back, wide receiver position, they had some attrition there as well. What I also like, Randy, is the fact that they reshuffled they shuffled that offensive coaching staff. The guy who was coaching running backs is now coaching quarterbacks and vice versa. You got Brad Salem, who's going to spread this thing out, try to get guys in space. So it's a different mindset than Mark D'Antonio has utilized there. And after the numbers they posted year, which were the worst since he's been the head coach, he needed some changing. He needed to overhaul that offense. So that's what he did. So I like what they were thinking as far as moving guys around in that coaching staff and now trying to open up this offense and showcasing the talent that's on this team. So I think you're going to see the same defensive performance, but you're going to see a much, much better offense.
All right. Well, I'll be looking for it. Mine wasn't that much.
I sold that now. Are you buying?
Mine wasn't that much different. I just had Michigan. Michigan and Utah.
Right, exactly. And I like Utah with all their defensive firepower coming back offensively as well. We talk about the quarterback and Moss at running back. And so I'm with you. And they're going to always bring a physical brand of football. But Michigan, love what Don Brown does with the defense. I thought they'd get more out of Shea Patterson in that offense last year. Maybe they do with Josh Gaddis coming over from Bama as a new OC. But that's one where, I just got to see it to believe it.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh, same here. Same here. Hey, for every yin, there's a yang, and for every top 5, top 10, there's a bottom 10. Pretty familiar cast of characters in the bottom 10 with UTEP and UConn and some of those teams. But one of the top 10 for quite a while now, or bottom 10, I should say, Kansas made a big splash earlier this offseason hiring Les Miles. Is there any hope? What's the time frame for turning around a team like Kansas? Are you talking 3 or 4 years?
How about 30, 40? I have maintained that Dorothy doesn't live in Kansas anymore, man.
Yeah.
And that is such a difficult place. And I know they hung their hat. The former coach, Coach Beatty, hung his hat on knocking off my Longhorn, something that should have never, ever happened. But hell, Rice beat us under John Mackovic way back when. And Mackovic said you can't beat Rice all the time. Oh, really? We'd only been beating them for 60 years. So I just can't see it happening. He's going to have to go the Bill Snyder route. He's going to have to go and just carry home the country. And he doesn't have to go far because you got some great JCs right there in Kansas. Garden City is one of the best. So I think he's going to have to go that route if he's going to ever be able to build that thing up. Coach Beatty wasn't able to do it. I don't know if Les Miles can do it, but we'll see what he puts on the field. It's just so tough. And now all the financial issues they're dealing with from athletic department standpoint, and not just them alone. There are a ton of programs out there, Power 5 programs that are dealing with that with this advent of the early signing day and the uptick in finances they're having to allocate now to recruiting. But that's another one. You just got to see it to believe it.
Yeah.
Tough place. As great as basketball is there, football's not even close. And it was damn good when, of course, Mark Mangini turned that thing around, and then some players say, "Hey, coach me too hard." Next thing you know, he's gone, and that program hasn't been right ever since that happened. You want someone in there that's going to coach you hard, and I know Les Miles is looking at this team and saying, I have nothing like I had at LSU on this roster. Maybe a couple. That one running back, Puka. I can't remember his last name, but he's damn good. So if he turns it around, this would be as big as Bill Snyder turning around Kansas State.
Puka Williams?
I can't see it happening. Puka Williams, that's it. Yeah.
Puka Williams, how about a few of let's go over a few of these games. I'd love to give your thoughts. Okay. You spent a couple years at UCLA. What do you think of the Bruins going to Cincinnati? Cincinnati beat them 23-17 last year in the Rose Bowl. What do you think of that matchup?
Man, I sat there yesterday and we were making those picks on Inside College Football, and I wanted to say UCLA, but something said say Cincinnati because I like Cincinnati. That's probably my favorite Group of Five team. 11-2 last year. Of course, 4-8 the year prior. First year, Luke Fickell and his staff taking over there. So I like what they're bringing back defensively. Lost some guys up front, but UCLA, I think they're going to be more explosive on the offensive side of the ball. Second year of Chip Kelly's offense. I think they're going to be more. We saw that transformation take hold about the last 4 or 5 games last year. They went from averaging about 300 yards a game to well over 400 those last 4 or 5. So I think with some consistency and the way they turn things around from an offensive standpoint last year, they're going to be much, much better. In this game, it can go either way. I picked Cincy, but I'm not surprised that UCLA wins this ball game, and I think they will display some more explosiveness on the defensive side of on the offensive side of the ball. They lost that one guy. They lost one of their top linebackers. He's suspended 8 games? Bo Calvert.
Oh yeah.
Which is interesting. I'm not sure what he did. Of course, they haven't elaborated, but that's going to be the big question. This may be a high-scoring game because Michael Warren is a legit stud over there, running back for Cincy, and that quarterback Ritter, he's pretty damn good also.
How about Boise State, Florida State? Who do you like in that one?
I'm going to go Florida State, man. There's no way they can be as bad as they were last year. And what I always
famous last words, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. That was last year, man. I always love about boys. They'll go anywhere and play anybody. I love that about them, man. And here they are doing it again, going across country to Jacksonville to take on Florida State. Blackman's the leader of that team, and I think they're going to play better on the offensive side. But the offensive line has been the issue. I can't believe they haven't been able to get that right the last 3-4 years. They got to get that right. They're going to always have studs on defense. It starts with Marvin Wilson at the nose tackle for Florida State, and they have a plethora of targets at wide receiver and tight end. And Boise starting this freshman quarterback, Hank Bachmeier.
Yeah.
Now, as we were discussing yesterday, he's got 4 siblings, 3 brothers. The brothers are Buck, Tiger, and Bear, and he got Hank. So I just don't get that. I don't understand how he got the simple name. And
he'll get Chase too.
Yeah, he gets Chase, exactly. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how he plays. True freshman. Coach.
But you like Florida State, huh?
Yeah, I like Florida State in it.
All right, so Florida State takes that one. Is there a chance? Can Houston go into Oklahoma? Can they beat the Sooners? I say again, but it wasn't that long ago. They actually beat the Sooners.
Exactly. You know what? De'Aaron King, as you know, you've called the young man's games. He's a hell of a player.
He's the real deal.
Him. Yeah, he is definitely the real deal. This guy is just a superstar. 50 touchdowns he accounted for. Remember, he missed the end of the season of the last couple of games because of the knee injury. But I like his game. I don't know if they're going to have enough defense to keep him in it and be able to outscore OU. That's going to be the key. And it's going to be interesting also for OU. They're replacing 4 offensive linemen. And, this is an offense that I believe they won the Joe Moore Award, our buddy Aaron Taylor's award.
Yes, they did.
Last year. So it's going to be a good game, I think. I think there's going to be a ton of offense, but I just don't know if Houston can have enough defense. And speaking of defense, OU's breaking in a new DC.
I'll take that. I'll take that for a no.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I love it. Hey, we got another game on Monday night, Notre Dame and Louisville. Is Louisville got any shot?
I'm going to say no right off the bat. No, Louisville does not have a shot. With Scott Satterfield taking over, we know this guy's pedigree and what he was able to do there at App State, which was phenomenal. They went on a great run under his tutelage, but I think it's going to at least be a year before he can go in there and turn this thing around. But the talent may be there. They may do something unforeseen by us so-called experts. So that's another one. It'll be interesting to see how they come out and play, considering the horrible season they had a year ago. But I'm gonna lean Notre Dame in this one.
How about the Gamecocks? South Carolina is going to go to Charlotte and face off with your old soulmate Mac Brown in North Carolina. Well, who do you like in that one?
Another freshman quarterback, Sam Howell. I'm going with South Carolina in this one. I think their defense could be much, much better this year. Of course, they had some injuries, big-time injuries last year on that side of the ball. Wanham was one of them, and they need him out there as much as possible. Jake Bentley, this has to be his year on offense. He's got to take control and just be that dude. He's got to be that dude at the quarterback position, and I think they get this ball game. Mac Brown has to wait at least another week before he gets a victory for his homecoming.
Hey, how excited are you for this year's SEC schedule? I mean, the good news is you're going to be doing it. The bad news is you got to wait a couple weeks.
Yeah, and we got South Carolina and Bama, so of course we're hoping South Carolina is undefeated when that one tees up. But man, I'm very excited. You've been saying it from day one, and I mentioned it last night. One of my favorite phrases from you, that SEC West is the deep end of the pool, and I think it's even deeper this year. LSU, Bama, even with the problems at linebacker, Auburn. And I think Mississippi State's going to be in there. We'll see who gets suspended once they hand that down with these latest NCAA fractions. But now that they have a quarterback, they can fully open up that offensive playbook under Joe Moorhead. And it's a guy who's familiar with Moorhead coming from Penn State and Tommy Stevens. I think they can be in the mix. So, and our boy Rich Rod at Ole Miss, offense hadn't been the problem at Ole Miss. Mike McIntyre comes from Colorado. We'll see if he can get those land sharks to at least bite this season. So I think it's going to be fun on that side of the ball. Who knows maybe South Carolina emerges and gets in the thick of things like Kentucky did last year and gives Georgia and Florida a fight.
Yeah, I tell you what, Ole Miss has got a dangerous one going to Memphis in the opener.
Yes, that's extremely dangerous.
That's an
everyone back.
That's an underappreciated rivalry with that Ole Miss Memphis.
Exactly. They don't like each other too much. Let's just say that.
They're too close.
Yeah,
too close. Hey, BJ, really appreciate it. Hey, you have a great weekend. You're working all week. You had Tuesday night with Inside College Football. You got Thursday night games. You got Friday night games. You're in studio again Saturday.
Yep.
Dang.
They're working me like a government mule this week, man.
Wow.
But you know what? I'm loving it. There's no other place I'd want to be. So I'm cool with it. Let's get it on.
In front of that tree of 12 TVs.
Oh, man, come on. Best sports bar in America, right?
That's right. Hey, BJ, thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining me.
You got it, my man.
All right. Well, thank you again to BJ. Brian Jones is a go-to guy. He's got plenty of opinions, and as they say in the business, he can go. He'll tell you about it. He's no Phil Steele, but he's got a lot of information. All right, let's go right now to a little sports news. Yeah, it says player news and sports news. And, this one here, this is fan news. And it's all around a golf tournament. Now, the PGA Tour has the PGA Tour Championship every year, and it's always been at East Lake here in Atlanta. Great classic course. Now, during the course of, I believe it was Saturday, there was a storm. They said there was lightning in the area. They emptied the course, and well, let's run this video. And this is what happened. It's pretty scary. That's the clubhouse. There's the lightning strike. Watch it again. Watch the dirt come up. Now, there were fans all around that tree. Actually, 6 different fans, including a 12-year-old boy, were hurt by that lightning strike. But that's just sort of a lesson to you, and we can all learn. If you're in a lightning situation, it's not always best to stand under a tree because trees stick up pretty high, and lightning tends to go to the highest thing available. And in this case, it was a tree, and thankfully, no one was hurt real seriously. All right, time now for our Wambulance this week.
You better grab your blankie and just squeeze it real tight. These people need to get a real life.
Ah, yes, get a real life. And there couldn't be a better thing this week for a Wambulance and a getting a real life than the reaction in general to Andrew Luck of the Indianapolis Colts. He was a Stanford Cardinal quarterback. He announced his retirement. He has spent the last, it seems 4 or 5 years rehabbing. His shoulder was bad. This year he had 2 or 3 different injuries. And he basically tearfully said at his press conference, I just had enough. I can't do this anymore. And there weren't always a lot of great reactions to that. And probably the worst reaction was Doug Gottlieb, a commentator naturally, fellow commentator I might add, says it's the most millennial thing ever because rehabbing was too hard. Best reaction to that reaction? No, unbelievable. Former UCLA Bruin, college football All-American, college football Hall of Famer, and Pro Football Hall of Famer, Troy Aikman, former Dallas Cowboy quarterback. There's Troy's reaction. And I could not be more in agreement with my fellow Bruin than that. This reaction where you've got to make these snide remarks and everybody's getting butthurt about every little thing. It's so social media. It's fitting it's on social media. But what a load of crap that is. You know, the guy's played for a while. Most of the time he's been playing, he's been hurt. And he doesn't want to play anymore. That's his decision. That's not yours. Get a life. If he's on your fantasy team, tough luck. You drafted him. Have your draft later. That's the best solution. Have your draft later. And like I said, get a life. All right, let's move on now to the feel-good story of the week. You're going to like this one.
This is the good news. This is the good news.
Northside Hospital in Atlanta is the location. The person, Amanda Coley, a cancer patient who she had it planned out. She was going to go see the Backstreet Boys who were going to be in town, and she's a huge fan. Well, the problem is she was in the middle of chemo, so she wasn't going to be able to go. Well, kudos to all the nurses and the staff at Northside Hospital because they tried to make it up to her the best way they could. Well, now they got Amanda dancing. Yeah, see, every time social media seems like it cannot be redeemable, something like this Amanda Coley story happens. And you're reminded that there are good uses for Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and the rest of them. Good luck, Amanda. Keep that fight up. All right. Want to remind you on social media where you find us. A lot of the same places that you always have found us, except now grewingtruth.com and barnburner.ca are the places to go. You want to get the podcast, get it at all those places, plus randycross.com. And if you ever have any questions or suggestions, as always, you address those to producer at randycrosspodcast.com. All right, time now for a little happy trails.
So what are you making, guys?
We're making some pie.
You're just going to put your whole foot in there? Okay.